Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for another video. And today I'm going to be doing another deep dive. Now, if you've not seen these videos before, the idea is that I take a particular time in Magic history or a particular person, and I kind of go deep into finding more about that situation, more about that person, and then kind of extract some of the lessons that we as magicians can learn from that. And these are some of the most popular videos that I do on the channel, and I want to say thank you to everybody that commented favourably about the David Blaine and Chris Angel video I did. That took a long time to put together. Today, I'm going to be doing a video on a subject that people have requested over and over and over again. And the reason it's took me so long to get to this point is because I had to figure out the best way to do it. Because I didn't want this to be a character assassination, which is the way that you would expect me to take this, because we're dealing with somebody who I've openly been critical about in the past. I've made videos about being critical about in the past, and somebody who a big percentage of the Magic community is unhappy with. I'm talking, of course, about Justin Flom. And it would be very easy for me to do a video where I just spend 20 minutes talking about all of the bad things that magicians perceive Justin Flom have done. But I wanted to be very objective. I wanted to look at this from two different points of view. And so today, we're going to be examining Justin Flom. From magician's most favourite respected magician to the algorithm's favourite magician. And this is a very interesting story. As I put all of this together and I learned more about Justin, I actually found the whole thing fascinating. So, without further ado, today, let's have a look at Justin Flom. Okay, I think it's fair to say that Justin Flom right now is one of the most controversial magicians in the world. He openly exposes tricks on his channel. He has amassed billions of views over social media, and you know, I saw an interview with Justin by Richard Young and Alice Hudson on the Magicians Podcast Network. And, you know, he didn't do himself many favors on there. But here's the thing. I wanted to be objective about this. And Justin Flom did not start as a controversial magician. He started as one of the good ones. In fact, one of the best ones. I remember when Justin Flom really first hit the magic industry, really first hit the magic scene, everybody was raving about him. He was performing sellout shows all over the world. His clips of him performing at events were being shared by magicians as an example of how to perform correctly, how to really innovate and make yourself different. He was releasing magic. He released card artistry with Vanishing Ink. You know, he started off as one of the good ones, the kind of magician that creates original material, releases tricks through respected companies, performs live, and builds a real career. He's somebody that I know a lot of magicians looked up to. And then something happened. He didn't fade out, nor did he fail. In fact, by most measurable statistics, Justin Flom is more successful now than ever before. He also didn't get pushed out of the magic industry. I know that for a fact because I see him almost every year at Magic Live. But what Justin Flom did is he pivoted. He took advantage of a situation that he saw in front of him, and he pivoted. And in doing so, he became one of the most successful magic content creators in the world. Now, let that just kind of swirl around in your head for a minute. He became one of the most successful magic content creators in the world. But while doing that, he lost a significant amount of respect for the magic community. So the question isn't why don't magicians like Justin Flom? The real question is, why did someone who was so respected decide to stop playing that game when they were so good at it? And did he actually make a smarter move by pivoting into what he does now? Well, that's what we're going to examine in this video. And we're going to start with part one. So part one would be the version of Justin Flom that magicians forget. And we're going to start with facts. Justin Flom was born in 1986 into a family of magicians and started performing from a young age. He didn't stumble into magic, he grew into it. And in 2005, instead of going to college, he committed fully to magic and launched a show in Branson, Missouri, becoming one of the youngest featured performers there. He later built his own magic venue, the Imaginary Theatre and Magic Parlour. That's not content creator energy. That's working magician energy. Now, the key point is before the internet and before all of the online stuff he did, Justin Flom was doing the exact same thing that magicians respect. He was building a live career as a live performer. Now, I found a bio on Justin, a bio that basically talks all about Justin Flom. And it's written if you want to book him as a speaker. I'm going to read part of this biography out because it's kind of interesting to understand his backstory. And I think it'd be really interesting for people who just look at Justin Flom as the enemy of magic to understand where he came from. So I'm going to read you part of this biography. Justin Flom's path to crafting his own unique brand of magic took a route from his hometown of Eden Prairie, Minnesota, to Branson, Missouri, to the Sci-Fi Channel, to some of the largest arenas in the country, to being one of the first magicians to focus on social media, on the way to becoming one of America's most sought-after magicians, surpassing entertaining over 1 million fans in 2015. Online giant About.com listed Justin as one of their 10 magicians to watch in 2015, saying along with his Wizard Wars television series, Flom's career soared from his ability to create and present on social media and publish entertaining videos that go viral. He is another magician who will increase his mainstream presence. What sets him apart from most other magicians is the simplicity of his magic and the fact that he cracked the code on doing close-up magic on giant stages. He holds the distinction of being the first magician ever to perform card tricks for a sold-out crowd at the fabled Madison Square Gardens. When speaking to Justin Flom, he said, "My magic is organic. That means all of my magic uses ordinary objects. You're not going to see any big magic boxes that can only be built in Las Vegas. It's close-up magic. You're going to see cans of Pringles, Candy Nerds, Lifesavers, dollar bills, and I love to incorporate music into my magic." Such was the case of superstar duo Florida Georgia Line. Just over a year ago, Justin performed some magic for the guys backstage prior to one of their concerts, and they invited him to come on tour with them. Through 2015, he opened the shows performing magic on stage and in the crowd for hundreds of thousands of fans, upwards of 60 cities. As you can see, by the way, this was written in 2016. What's most important to me is to go out and see the fans, see the people who want to see the magic in person. By the way, as a side note here, isn't that interesting? Because these days, Justin doesn't really perform, at least live. We'll get to that later. But back in 2016, he was touring everywhere, and he actually said one of the most important things that he does is having people see him live. Continuing, that desire was ingrained in him at an early age, almost from birth. My dad, my uncle, my brothers, my little sister are all magicians. So I've been performing from the age of 2. Whilst the family did some touring, the magic bug bit Justin a little bit deeper. Following high school, Justin skipped college and instead took his show to the Branson Mall Music Theatre in Branson, Missouri, where he was the youngest headliner on the Strip. After 1 year, he decided to build a custom-designed theatre above the Majestic Steakhouse. Justin opened the Imaginary Theatre and Magic Parlour, a 3-room magical experience that culminated in an infinite 108-seat theatre stage show, and that was done on the 1st of July 2006. Considering Branson, Missouri to be an expensive learning experience, Justin reinvented himself in 2011 when fellow magician Rick Lax, we knew that he'd come into it, suggested he'd make more money making magic videos online. Justin sold his 3 magic boxes and started working on new effects with coffee, Coke, Lifesavers, and Nerds. So I think it's safe to say that 2011 was when the seed that was planted to what we see now. However, Having said that, he was still performing live in 2015 and saying that was the most important part of what he does. But definitely the online stuff happened around happened around 2011 when Rick Lax came into kind of the picture. Continuing, taking that advice to heart, Justin began posting videos on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and anywhere else he could find an outlet online. The efforts paid off when the staff of Las Vegas Weekly named him Best Up-and-Coming Entertainer in that 2013 Weekly Awards. Again, side note, think about all the accolades he's getting. Think about everything he's doing here. Think about everything he has achieved. Aside from all of the social media stuff, most magicians would dream of having a career that he had back in 2013, 2014. To say he was a success in magic is an understatement. Continuing, in 2014, James Galia formed the Band of Magicians with Flom, Justin Willman, and Nate Stanworth. Not some mystical collective, but instead a bunch of ordinary dudes who dabble in the extraordinary. Justin Flom took charge and is the heartthrob of the group, who often wears the kind of satisfied half smile that only a person in the room who knows what's going on. Justin does new school card tricks and even tricks with everyone's phone and Instagram. The audience loves the magic, and during the Band of Magicians run, standing ovations and packed houses were proof. That same year, Sci-Fi Television Network filmed a new show, Wizard Wars, starring Justin along with Penn and Teller and several other magicians competing to create magic out of ordinary objects on the spot. The lead wizard on the series, Justin, is also an associate producer of the show. By the time 2015 rolled around, Justin was taking his magic to national network television with appearances on The Late Late Show, WWE Weekly Telecast, NBC Today Show, The Ellen DeGeneres Show, and others. Sold-out solo shows were accompanied by regular additions to his YouTube channel. So in 2015, he was starting to post very, very regularly on YouTube, but still the focus was on live performances. His classic card hit wonder video has generated more than 50 million views, and his military tribute, Soldier's Deck of Cards, has recorded over 5 million. BuzzFeed named Justin one of their 15 Snapchat enthusiasts that will inspire you to take better snaps. Corporate events include the Seattle Seahawks, MetLife, the Bentonville Film Festival with Gina Davis, and hosting Walmart's International Shareholders Conference and US National Managers Conference. Justin's first book, Adventures of a Kid Magician, hit Walmart in the shelves in February 2016. The book is written in a journal form with Zach, explaining how magic gets him in and out of trouble and the life lessons he learns along the way. Each adventure comes with a secret magic code that will take the readers to an exclusive online video of the actual magic tricks that's in that chapter. For a kid from Minnesota, Justin Flom continues to captivate both online and in person. The number of his avid followers grows exponentially every week, and his new relationship with booking agent, Creative Artists Agency, sees him crisscrossing the globe through this year. He's thankful daily for his family who planted a seed to entertain, to make people laugh, smile, and sometimes gasp, and he's looking forward to gathering a new generation of magic lovers. Now, I don't know about you, but I found that absolutely fascinating. It's obviously written around about 2016, and it showcases just how much Justin has done as a magician, as a live magician. But now we look at Justin in 2026, just a decade later, and he openly has said on the Magicians podcast he doesn't really perform live anymore. He was obviously passionate about it. He came from a family that celebrated magic. So what happened? Let's delve into that, shall we? So part 2, the creator era, when he was one of us. Now, I kind of went through this in the biography, but we're going to break it down a little bit. Here's the thing. This is the bit that the internet and the magic community online completely forgets. Justin Flom wasn't just performing. He was creating magic as well. Now, like I said, he released magic through Vanishing Ink. Card artistry. I was around when card artistry came out. It was very early on in the sort of the lifespan of Vanishing Ink. And it was something that everybody wanted to buy. It was something that everybody was doing. I remember buying it and absolutely loving it. It wasn't the only trick he brought out, but I mean, that just is the perfect example of somebody who's doing everything right to build a kind of relationship with the magic community, to build a reputation in the magic community, aligning yourself with Vanishing Ink, and bringing out something like card artistry. That's not a throwaway trick. Vanishing Ink described card artistry as a piece that captured both magicians and audiences and gained millions of views. And what you need to understand is this is crucial, because this is where his reputation was built. He understood visual magic, he understood strong climaxes, and he understood shareable moments before social media demanded it. So here's the thing, before Justin Flom cracked the algorithm, he cracked what magicians actually perform. Now, after that, and I mentioned this briefly when I was reading that bio, but he went into Wizards Wars. If you don't know Wizards Wars, it was a TV show. It starred a lot of prominent big-name magicians, especially from the States. And this is kind of, I think, where we hit the pivot point. Because Wizard Wars premiered in 2014. And here's the key fact. From my research, Justin Flom didn't just appear on the show. He helped create it with Rick Lax. So I talked earlier about how Rick suggested that Justin start doing more magic online. From that point on, it's very easy for us to hypothesize that they started working together regularly, because 2 years later, according to Wikipedia, he helped create Wizard Wars with Rick Lax. They literally filmed the original version in an apartment. And as you know, it became viral, and then Wizard Wars became a TV show. And this is kind of massive when we're analysing the whole Justin Flom thing, because it proves something. Justin Flom was already thinking at this point, how do we monetize magic? How can we take magic to an entire other performance space? How can we perform magic outside of live entertainment? How do we make magic more watchable? Not just how do we make magic good? I can tell from researching into Justin Flom, I can tell that he's a very driven, very entrepreneurial person. Because honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, that's kind of the thought process that I went through when I left the magic community. So I left the magic community after Red, you guys know that, and I set up a company, a kids entertainment company. One of the reasons I set up the kids entertainment company is because I looked at my business and I looked at me performing in magic, and I realized that there was a ceiling. And the ceiling was me. I realized that it didn't matter how hard I worked, it didn't matter how much effort I put in, I was always going to be limited by how many shows I do. And yeah, you can put your prices up again, and you can put your prices up again, and you can put your prices up again. But you've got to reach a certain point where you can't really put your prices up anymore. And even then, at that point, you're still limited by the amount of gigs that you can do. And I was thinking 20 years in the future, and I was thinking, do I really want to be doing 300 shows a day? Is that something that 300 shows a year? Is that something I really want to be doing? I'll probably have kids at that point. Will I want to be doing that many shows? And so I set up a company because I thought, well, the way to actually scale this, the way to become even more successful, and the way to secure a future for my family would be to scale the performances. So if I, rather than rely on me for income, if I build a business where lots of other people are going out and performing, and I make a small amount off every single performance they do, well, that then becomes scalable, because then there is no ceiling, which is what I did. And it took a long time, and it also meant that I had to take a step back, because there was a point where I was really, really busy and I was performing more than I'd ever performed before. And I had to then say, well, I'm going to give those gigs to other people, which meant that I was making less money, I was doing less gigs, but that was the only way that I could free up my time to build that business. The point is, this isn't about me, it's about Justin, but I can recognize that in Justin as well. I can see through everything I'm reading, and I can see through everything I've researched, that the pivot point of Justin going into online content creation and what he did with Wizard Wars is really about a desire to become more successful, and recognizing that him as a performer on his own has a ceiling. At least that's my read into this. Okay, so part 3, we need to talk about Rick Lax, who really, I think, from everything I've looked at, was a big turning point when it came to Justin Flom. We need to talk about the relationship properly. Now, here's the facts that we know. We know that Justin had a relationship with Rick back in 2011, and Rick suggested to Justin that he create content online. We know that before that point, Rick Lax was experimenting with creating content online, and we know that from the work he did with Penguin Magic. If you remember Penguin Magic, and kind of after the Oz Perlman and Jane Noblezada era, you had Rick Lax kind of as the face of Penguin for a while, and he had a very different approach to Oz. Instead of being in a studio, performing in a studio, he was kind of more sitting in a cafe with some headphones in, doing magic very, very almost conversationally, which was unheard of at the time. And we know that Rick Lax, you can think about him what you want, but you know that he's a very clever guy when it comes to knowing what will work and what won't work online. And I can tell he's very entrepreneurial as well. But we know all of that. We also know that Rick Lax, at least according to Wikipedia, is the co-creator of Wizard Wars with Justin Flom. And we know that Rick Lax became one of the biggest viral content creators on Facebook, generating billions and billions of views. So here's the crucial fact, and I mentioned this, but I'll say it again. Rick Lax encouraged Justin Flom to move forward into online content. And he probably showed him the figures. He probably said, look, this is what I'm doing. You should do the same thing as well. We know that at that point, Justin had shown he had a talent for creating moments. We know that Justin had a talent for creating online content, and I think Rick just pushed him in the right direction. Flom shifted direction after being advised to create more magic videos online, and then, as we know from the bio, he sold off all of his large stage illusions and he focused on simple visual effects. This is the moment. That is not speculation. That is the pivot. In order for somebody who loves live performance to sell off all of his big boxes and all of the props that he was using at that point to deliver his show, that's the pivot point. It really is. Now, that might not be the point where he went completely into online content creation. That might not be the point at all. But that is the point where he obviously made a decision in his head. Right, I need to start doing things differently. I need to start looking at this in a very, very different way. Now, we know even after that happened, he was still performing. Heck, but the performances were being used to generate views and increase his online persona. Like one of the videos I remember seeing Justin do before he became the Justin Flom that we know now was standing in an arena doing card magic to music. So what would happen is the music would play and he had a deck of cards and he had a camera set up on a close-up pad and he had a deck of cards, and as the music played he was producing cards and doing card effects that keyed into the music that was playing. That was something that worked in an arena with tens of thousands of people, but weren't big boxes. He was stripping everything back. And like I say, that I really do believe was the pivot point. This is where Justin Flom made the decision to change everything. He stopped building magic for stages and theatres and magicians and started building magic for the internet. And even though he still continued to perform online, I believe his online performances were used as a vehicle to push his online persona. Maybe it didn't get to the point then that we are now, but I think that was the starting point. Okay, so part 4, the algorithm decision, because from here, everything changes. Now, these are the facts. This is what we know. Okay, this is what we know. By 2020, his content generated billions of minutes watched. Billions. Now, to put that into context, that is a ridiculous number. I film content for Magic TV all day, every day, and I get a fraction of the views in 1 year that Justin Flom will get in 1 day. Fact. Most magicians that are creating content won't even come anywhere near touching what Justin Flom's done. Also, here's another fact. He became one of the most viewed creators on Facebook. Verified fact. He became one of the most viewed creators on Facebook. And this is after, you can see from watching his videos, and I've spent way more time than I'd really wanted to watching Justin Flom videos and going back in time and seeing the old videos and so on and so forth. Before he kind of almost completely turned his back on magic, he was doing very, very clever viral videos that weren't exposing magic, that were instead just really kind of very, very clever ways of presenting magic online. And one is, I'm sure you all remember this, sawing a baby in half, is when he had his child, and the child was sitting on kind of the changing mat, and he took a couple of books, and he sawed his baby in half. And you watch that video as a magician, and one, it looks amazing, but two, you can see the way the camera's moving around, that there's stuff going on. But that is an amazing video. But you know what? That video, which is probably one of the best magic videos I've ever seen, because it doesn't expose the magic. It takes a classic illusion, the sawing in half, and it does it in a way that that's really revolutionary, that everybody can relate to. It's got a really cool hook. That video there didn't do anywhere near as well as the videos that he does these days that don't really have any magical content. And it might be, him messing around in his House of Wonders, or it might be him, exposing a crystal casket base, but doing it in a way where they're pranking one of their friends, that sort of stuff. That video didn't generate anywhere near the views that his more recent videos have done. So I think what's happening here, or at least in my opinion, is when he decided to go down the route of content creation, he was applying his creativity, and we all know he's very, very creative. He was applying his creativity to online magic, but doing it in a way that was kind of really innovative and really cool and really different. But I think he's obviously a very smart guy. He was looking at the landscape. I think that he's the sort of person that when he does something, he goes balls deep into it. He was looking at the online, everything that's happening online and what other content creators are doing, and he probably thought, well, you know what? I could be doing better than this. I could be doing way better than this. I could be doing more views. And I think he's probably made a video that exposes a trick. It's had way more views, and he's slowly pivoted in that direction and eliminated all of the really clever magic out of his kind of his wheelhouse. Because here's the facts. These days, his videos include really simplified reveals of magic tricks, and you see it over and over again. I don't need to go into this. I've gone and made multiple videos about this, but I'll never forget making a video on Magic TV when I saw him basically expose the crystal casket, and he did it as kind of a jokey thing. He did it as a prank. So he opened a crystal casket, hid someone in there, and basically they got out and scared their friend. Long story short, that video blew up. That video got millions and millions and billions and billions of views. And I don't think creating a magic trick around the crystal casket would have made as many views as that video did. The way that video was done, it appealed to people. It was a prank. Let's be honest, a lot of the general public, they're not searching for magic. They're scrolling through, and if they see a prank, they're going to watch it. I think it's all of these things combined that really pushed him into a situation where he's really exposing magic, but I think he's justifying it in his head. I think it's kind of like, you know what? I'm not really justifying magic. I'm making magic really popular. And a lot of the time when I'm exposing magic, and we'll use the crystal casket thing as an example, he's probably thinking, well, he's not really exposing it because his video exposes how that's done. But if it was on a stage and it was done with a cloth in a theatrical way, people wouldn't put two and two together, and they probably wouldn't even remember the video scene in the first place anyway. I don't know. I've not spoken to Justin about that. But here's the uncomfortable bit. When it comes to exposing magic, it wasn't accidental and it wasn't careless. It was strategic, because the algorithm rewards curiosity, resolution, and payoff. And nothing delivers payoff faster than here's how it works. Now, that obviously led to a backlash from the magic community. And I think we need to look at why magicians turned on Justin. And when I say turned on Justin, that's exactly what I mean. I think from his point of view, that's what he probably thinks has happened, that they've turned on him. Because they were with him right up until a certain point, and then they turned. Again, let's look at the facts. Justin Flom has been criticised by magicians and even barred from certain magic organisations. And this is where the emotional reaction comes from, because magicians saw a respected creator who then moved into exposure and scaled it massively. And that's the reason why, it felt like betrayal, I think, to the magic community. I think a lot of people looked at him and he was almost like the poster boy of magic. And then what's happened is it's all gone very, very wrong, very, very quickly. And the magic community feel like they are betrayed. If he'd always been that guy, nobody would care. If he came into the scene as just a content creator, exposer of magic, he'd just be another one of them. There's dozens of them out there. Nobody would care. But he wasn't. He was a respected performer. He was a respected creator, and he crossed over. So let's analyze for a minute before I talk about my take on this and what we can learn. Let's talk for a minute about why he walked away from performing. Fact, he had a live career. He built his own theatre. He performed nationally. We know from 2015. He was literally touring the world. He'd been on TV multiple times. That timescale, 2015, 2016, he had the career that most magicians dream of. He had the career that most magicians would sell their left arm for. And then a decade later, doesn't perform live. When he went on the Magicians podcast with Richard Young, with Richard Young and Alan Hudson, he talked about how magic is going to evolve and it's going to go in a different direction. And you could tell from listening to that interview, he felt like he'd done nothing wrong. And his output now is digital, social, and scaled. So why did he cross over? Why did he stop performing? What happened? I think there's three reasons. The first reason is, I hinted at earlier on, is scale. If you're performing in a theatre, you can reach hundreds of people. If you're performing on the internet, you can reach millions of people. I really do believe that when he started really focusing on online content creation, he was doing so for the same reason that most magicians create content online, to push people towards booking him for live shows. We know that because in his bio from 2016, he talked about one of the most important things for him is performing live. I really do believe that that was the case, but something changed. I think that when he saw just how many people he could reach, I think he realized that it was kind of like, because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you can only put so much time into so many different things. And you have to focus on what works the best. Now, remember, it's around about the same time Justin had a family, so he's got to provide for his family. He's got to make money for his family, right? I think he just realized that if he wanted to scale his business, just exclusively creating content online on the internet would allow him to do so in a far more successful way and allow him to not be on the road all the time. Because don't forget, when you're performing on the road, you're on the road all the time. You might miss a lot of moments from your family and your friends and your kids as they're growing up. That's not as much of the case when you're performing on the internet. So I think, first of all, it was scale. I think, second of all, and I think we have to be honest here, it's about economics. I think that he makes multiple times more creating content and monetizing content than he does exceeding touring, even though he was performing at a very high level, and even though he was getting very high level gigs, and even though he was literally traveling the world as a performer. I don't think that money touches how much he made as a content creator. And I think maybe initially that wasn't an issue to him. But when you have a family and when you see, it's just a business decision really at the end of the day. And I know he loves magic. Look, here's the thing. He obviously loves magic. If he didn't love magic, he would have just left magic completely and not even bothered creating content around magic. I see him at Magic Live almost every single year. He doesn't have to go to Magic Live. It's not like he gets anything from going to Magic Live. It was only a couple of years ago that him and Rick Lax filmed a free download through Penguin Magic that he just gave away to the Magic community. I think he still loves Magic. I think he still loves the Magic community. But and I don't think that he thinks he's doing anything wrong by creating content online and exposing magic the way he is. I don't think he's doing that. I don't think he realizes that no, stupid Greg. He realizes that the community are upset with him. He's not an idiot. He realizes the community are upset with him, but I don't think he sees why the community are so upset with him. And I think that it's simply, 101. He's chosen to go down this route, which is going to make him infinitely more money. Now, does that make him a bad guy? That's subjective. If you asked somebody outside of magic, okay? If you ask somebody outside of magic that doesn't understand the art the way that we do, and you say you've reached a fork in the road, you can carry on with this very successful career as a performer and make this much money, or you can still access that creativity bug, but you can use it in a different environment and you can create magic online, but you can also expose magic. Not in a way, it's not like he's the mass magician. It's not like he's putting a video up of somebody performing a trick on BGT, for example, and then he stops it and he goes, boom, and he shows a little clip of how that trick's done. It's not that blatant. It's exposing magic in a different way. He's exposing magic in the context of a prank. He's exposing the magic in the context of, hey, look, here's this prank that's happening. This person's appeared out of nowhere, but we all know they're hiding in that base right there on that box, right? He's exposing magic in a different way. He's being more creative about it. It's not as blatant as, here's a trick, now this is how it's done. That's not what he's doing. He probably thinks, well, you know what? This is not going to harm magic because it's going to provide intrigue. More people are going to come into magic by seeing the stuff that he's doing. But I think if you asked a layperson which way they would go, I think most people would choose the big bag of money. I think a lot of magicians would choose the big bag of money. And I know that there's going to be people watching this that are saying, no, I wouldn't. You don't know until you've walked in Justin's shoes. You don't know until you're presented with this opportunity that he spent a lot of time and effort and money putting together. It would have been a big risk. I can only imagine the amount of effort. Just look at his bloody house. I mean, a lot of his videos these days are not about exposing magic. A lot of his videos are his fun house, where he's got this mental house with all this crazy stuff going on. That would have cost a lot of time and effort and money put together. He's done it for the money, but I don't think he necessarily thinks that's a bad thing, is what I'm trying to say. And the third reason why I think he stopped performing is because of control. If you perform live, it's completely unpredictable. Anybody who performs live at live events will tell you how unpredictable it is performing at live events. But if you are on video, you can take your time making the perfect cut. You can do it a dozen times. You can do it 100 times. You can do it 1,000 times. You only need to get that one usable time. And then once that is out in the internet, it's going to continue to make money forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And I see that from YouTube. I mean, I make almost nothing from YouTube, but I've got videos that I made 6 years ago. And I have a little thing and it's like, oh, this has been your most viewed video. And people are finding these videos from 6 years ago and I'm getting like £1 from it. Yay. Now, multiply that by 1 billion, and that's the situation that Justin Flom's in. So he's making more money than ever before, and a lot of it's passive income. A lot of his income where he doesn't need to do anything. He's made this one video. That one video has been put out on the internet. Now he can sit back and relax. He chooses not to do that. I really do believe he's got an entrepreneurial spirit, but he could sit back if he wanted to. Here's the hard truth. He didn't quit performing. He didn't quit performing. He just outgrew it as a primary model. I think he looks at content creation as a way of performing it. It scratches the itch. I really do believe it does. Um, so let me talk about what I think, because I've been very vocal in the past about Justin Flom. I've spoken about Justin Flom, and I've said how upset I am with the videos that he's done. And look, in an ideal world, I would rather him not do these videos, because the thing is, I watch some of his videos, and I'll be honest with you, I'll be completely honest with you, I actually enjoy some of his videos. I don't watch all of them, but the ones that are involving stuff that doesn't involve magic, I find them really interesting. I find them really, the stuff around the house and all of that, great, wonderful. His crazy fun house and all of the stuff that is built into that. Ryland and Theo love those videos. They're like, oh, can we have a house like that? Like, and there's a million other videos he does that I actually enjoy. And I think if he just made videos like that, I'd have so much respect for him. Also, if I'm being completely honest, I can understand from his point of view why he doesn't feel he's doing anything wrong with the videos he's doing about magic. I disagree. They are exposure, and exposure is wrong, and he shouldn't be doing it, and I've made videos about this in the past. However, as I've grown up over the last 6 years, I have begun to realize that one of the reasons that magic is so popular these days, above and beyond any other era, the reason magic is so popular is because people are exposed to it online all of the time. And a lot of the time, they don't even realize they're being exposed to it. I think that there's going to be people that are going to be in magic in one way or another, that are in magic because they've seen something that Justin Flom has exposed. And like I said, at least he's not exposing it in a very blatant, I don't know who the guy is that's got that little annoying face where he's there and he's like, hey, here's Ryland Petty's act, and now here's how it's done. You just want to go, that's just blatant. That's lazy. There's nothing put into that. There's no creativity at all. I can appreciate the creativity that Justin has used in the majority of his videos. Also, if I take away the fact that I'm a magician, if I'm the sort of person that likes prank videos, that video would be amazing. Let's use the Crystal Casket video for an example. That video would be funny. There's a payoff. The exposure isn't necessarily about the prop. There is exposure, but that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is that he's pranking his friend and so on and so forth, and you're just seeing behind the scenes of how this is done. It's not like Justin is standing on stage and saying, right, let me explain the Crystal Casket base. Let me explain the utility base. Let me explain a deceptive base and explain how it's done. And you know what? We revere Penn and Teller. We all talk about how amazing Penn and Teller is, and they are. But let's be honest, you've seen that routine by Penn and Teller, that one where Penn is doing a trick on Teller, and is in a cabinet, and then he takes the cabinet apart into pieces, and you see his head over there, his legs over there, you see his hands over there, and then he puts it all back together, and it's an amazing trick. If that ended right there, that'd be brilliant. And then you see that Penn and Teller lower the stage, and you see underneath, and you realize that this part of the stage that you didn't realize was there. It's basically exposing a deceptive step. And then what happens is they do the exact same trick again, and you see Teller sliding around all over the place, and you see exactly how the trick works. Now, I would argue that will do more damage to an illusionist, and I speak this from an illusionist point of view, that will do more damage to an illusionist than what Flom is doing, because Flom isn't even standing there saying, this is an illusion, this is how this illusion works. Next time you see a person appear on stage, it's probably this method. He's just using this as a tool to prank their friend. A lot of people will watch that video and not put two and two together. And that's really the same of every single exposure video that Flom has done. It's not an exposure video for exposing sake. It's exposure video that has an alternative goal as a video. Whilst Penn and Teller's thing, it's them performing on stage in a theatre, showing an illusion, and then literally dropping the steps and showing it how it's done. And it's not like the cups and balls where they use clear cups and balls and they do it so fast it almost still looks like magic even though it's not. You're just seeing exactly the same thing, but you're seeing how it all works. That does more damage to illusionists than anything that Flom would do. And yet, although Penn and Teller have been not allowed into the magic circle until recently, I don't think it's really affected their reputation amongst magicians. And in actual fact, you talk about the magic circle, they've actually, changed their stance on exposure seemingly over the last few years, because now Penn and Teller are in the magic circle despite doing all of this stuff. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be. But the point is, why is it okay to revere Penn and Teller, where they made this one of their signature tricks and even performed it on America's Got Talent, which does more damage to illusionists than what Flom does? Now, I'm not saying that what Flom is doing is right, but I am kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit here, right? And I think that one thing that I've learned from researching this video is, look, are the exposure videos that Flom does good? No. Would I be happier if they didn't make them? Absolutely, 100%. I'd be much happier if he didn't make them. But I don't think he thinks he's doing any harm. And also, if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't think they're doing that much harm to magic. One, I think that they might get people intrigued by magic, but two, and I've said this before online, when you're doom scrolling, a lot of his videos are designed for people who are doom scrolling, right? You're just scrolling in the middle of the night and you see this video and it's a mindless watch. Most people that watch Flom's videos, if I asked them a week later what the video content was about, they probably wouldn't remember. If I asked them a month later, they wouldn't even remember watching the video in the first place. I know this because there's many times I watch videos online that are not magic-related videos, and I couldn't tell you what was going on in that video. I couldn't even remember, and that's probably the following morning. So I don't think that they really have much of an impact. He's just using magic as a hook to basically further his online career, and more power to him for that. Yes, it's wrong, but I've made videos on this channel berating Justin Flom, and I would be happy to call anyone out if I feel that they're doing something wrong, as my legal standing at the moment will tell you. However, in this situation, I'm not 100% sure that they're as bad as I thought they were. No, he shouldn't be doing it, and I would rather he'd just be performing live and not making that sort of content at all. But I don't think it does as much harm as magicians think it does. And I don't think Justin feels like he's doing anything wrong. Okay, so let's look at the final part. And this is the entire story. Justin Flom traded respect from magicians for reach with the public. And here's the part that you guys might not want to hear. It worked. That's the thing. It worked. He obviously set out X amount of years ago to become an online content creator. And he is. He's one of the biggest content creators in the world. It worked. Now, the next question is, was it the right decision? And that's really subjective. If I'm being completely honest, it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is at the end of your life to have respect from your peers, to have built a legacy within magic, to have peer recognition, to be a well-known creator, to be a performer all over the world, then no, absolutely, categorically not. It did not work whatsoever, because his reputation in this industry is shot, and I don't think it will ever be repaired. However, if your goal is to make more money, become very, very wealthy, provide for your family, have more influence than most online creators, have a huge reach that most people could only dream of, to have cultural visibility, then yes, it worked. And let's be clear, magicians who do not like Flom are probably 1% of his audience, because his audience now has grown and pivoted just like he did. And now his audience is completely different. the people that don't like him within this industry probably make up 1%. And here's the real take. Most magicians would not make that trade. Most magicians would not say, I'm going to destroy my legacy in magic to be able to, have more reach, have more this, have more that, more the other. Some would, and more than you would think. I guarantee you there's more magicians in this industry, in this community, if they were presented with the check that Justin's got and said, right, over the next 10 years, this is what you've got to do. You've got to do exactly the same thing as Flom, but then this is how much money you're going to make, and you're going to have to turn your back from magic, and you've got to do this. I think a lot of magicians would go, yep, okay, I'll take that. But let's be honest, most magicians don't get that opportunity because most magicians won't put the work in. And let's be honest, it is really hard work. It's hard work from everything he's done to get to this level. It's even harder work, the fact that he's got to actually put up with a lot of people saying he's doing the wrong thing when he probably thinks he's not doing the wrong thing. Now, let's talk very quickly about what this actually means for magic. It's not really about Justin Flom anymore. It's about where magic's going. Because let's be honest, the old system is protect secrets, earn respect, and build slowly. While the new system is capturing attention, delivering instantly, and scaling massively. Justin Flom didn't break magic. He exposed the gap between these two systems. And honestly, I think more people are now going down the Justin Flom route because they've seen it's worked than ever before. And as we move into 2026 and 2027, and as we continue on, I think that the line between exposure and not exposure has become very, very blurred. I've been very outspoken about how I think that magic online, on YouTube, for example, teaching magic is not necessarily a bad thing. I have, in the past, exposed many of my tricks online. I've done online lectures that are available on YouTube. You look at somebody like one of my best friends in the world, Lloyd Barnes, and look at what he's done on the internet and what he's done with regards to building. I know there's so many people in magic that are here because they've seen a video by a magician teaching a magic trick online. Magic Alon, one of the biggest magic communities in the world, somebody who has gone from strength to strength. He came into this industry because of seeing an online YouTube video, and he's not the only one. I guarantee you, if there hasn't already been somebody, there will be a FISM winner that's going to be around in the next 5 years that wins FISM, and he came into, or she came into this industry by seeing a video exposing magic online. So here's the final lessons. Things that we can learn from studying Justin Flom. Number one, you can't optimize for both respect and reach forever. At some point, something's got to give. I know that because I experienced that myself. When I started building non-stop kids entertainment, I was hated by the kids entertainer community because I was viewed as being the person that's devaluing the industry. People would say to me that I'm just creating an army of kids that go out and do magic and they have no respect for magic. I was told I was destroying the industry. I had people saying that the worst thing to happen to the children's entertainment industry was me. And without understanding my business model, without understanding the training, without understanding everything that went into it, because I was disrupting an industry. I was doing something different to what everybody else was doing, and I was viewed as the reason why their bookings were down, or why less people were booking them and they were booking us. And you know what? That made me and led me into leaving magic. It was one of the reasons I left magic. It was one of the reasons I kind of became that person. Right, okay, you want me to be that person? I will. I'll write a blog about how the magic circles are relevant. I'll do videos about how we're better than other kids entertainers. And I was pushed into that position because of what people were saying to me without even knowing what I'd done. And what made it worse for the kids entertainer community is I was one of them. I came from being a magician, being a creator, and I then went down the route of devaluing the industry. So I can understand where Flom's coming from. The first lesson is you can't optimize for respect and reach forever. You know, if you want to be respected within the industry, within the community, that's fine. But if you do something that's going to disrupt that industry because you think it's the right thing to do, expect backlash. It's as simple as that. Lesson number 2, the audience decides success, not magicians. If you want to be successful, you can be successful, and you don't have to look for magicians to give you validation for that. I became most successful in my life when I left the magic community. Being in the magic community, filming the Wizard Product Review, working with World Magic Shop, to be clear, to be completely crystal clear, held me back. And the way that I became more successful, the way that I got to a point where I was getting more gigs than ever before, and I was headlining places like the Business Show at Excel in London more than once, was when I walked away from magic, when I walked away from the magic community, and I focused on my career and I focused on being successful. I was still performing magic, more magic than ever before, but I wasn't at any point caring what magicians thought about what I did or didn't do. I was successful in spite of magic, not because of magic. So if you want to be successful, it's going to be the audience, it's going to be your customers, it's going to be your client base that decides your success level, not magicians. Lesson number 3, the internet rewards clarity. If you want to be successful in this industry, you have to master social media and you have to master the internet. And I'm not saying that you have to do that to the levels of Justin Flom, but if you're a performer, if you're a creator, if you're a professional magician, you need to, absolutely have to, you must go out there and put yourself online. The only way to become successful is to make sure that you've got that reach. That's really, really important. Social proof and reach are everything. If somebody is looking for a magician and there's 3 different options and you're the one with the biggest social reach, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to get the gig. If you are not putting content online and you're not moving forwards, then you're going backwards. It's as simple as that. And lesson number 4, once you change lanes, you can't fully go back. You can't roll the toothpaste back into the tube. If you choose to do a Justin Flom, if you choose to do, to kind of almost basically turn your back on the industry, it's very, very difficult to go back. I'm not saying it's impossible, because I turned my back on this industry. I left the laughing stock of the community. I left this industry having ripped off Bob King's trick, getting kicked out the magic circle, exposing illusions online. I did many of the things that people say Justin Flom's done, and I walked away and the entire community hated me. Go look at some of the threads on the internet. Go look at some of the threads on the Magic Cafe. I left this industry, hated. 10 years later, I came back. 6 years after that, I'm now in a position where people don't even remember that. So it is possible. It is possible to come back, but you have to do a complete 180. And to be honest, I don't think Justin will want to do that 180, because why would he? He's successful enough. He doesn't need magic. But the lesson that we need to learn is it's very difficult to put the toothpaste back into the tube. So to wrap all of this up, Justin Flom did not fail. He didn't fall off. He didn't get it wrong. He made a choice. A choice most magicians are never in a situation to make. But I'm willing to bet it's a choice some magicians wouldn't take, yes. But I think a lot of magicians, if they were given the same, if they were allowed, if you could snap their fingers and allow them to get to the point where he is right now, but they'd have to go down the route of doing what he's done, a lot of magicians would take that risk. And honestly, it's a risk that worked. And whether you agree with that or not, he represents something very real. Justin Flom represents something very real, because the future of magic is not going to be decided in magic clubs. The future of magic is not going to be decided at conventions. The future of magic is evolving. It will be decided on people's phones. People will look at their phones and decide who they're going to book. And you can be the most successful magician in the world overnight by mastering appearing on the reels and on the shorts and on the Instagram accounts of the general public all over the world. Back in the day, to be successful, you had to go and get a TV deal. Now, more people will see you online, more people see you on YouTube than they will on television. So that's all I've got to say about that. Justin Flom. Probably not the video that people thought that I would make, but I wanted to be completely subjective about this, and I wanted to look at it from the point of view as an entrepreneur, and I really wanted to get into Justin's head. Now, please level the hate down below. I know that a lot of you are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. But if you are going to disagree with me, at least come forward with a reasoned argument as opposed to, oh, Petty's exposed. But, you know, I don't need that. Outside of that, let me know what you want me to do another one of these deep dives on. Should we do one on Rick Lax? That would be fun. I've actually had threats from Rick Lax in the past. So, you know, why not? Let's go down that route. Let me know what you think. You want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. I will be back tomorrow with another video. Until then, don't forget to join the Netrix, which is my online streaming platform for magicians. 5 new tricks going up next week. Look out for those. And I'll see you again. My name's Craig. And as normal, you've been watching Magic TV.